Hi fam, this is Rita J. I've been away for a while. You know, life kind of does that, kind of knocks you out the box and takes you out of your plans. So I have a breather now, and I thought I would get back to this project. This particular session, session number 4, I am going to call it Scarlatina. Yeah, and you'll find out in a little bit. Some of it I've already written down, for my book, and I will look at the script. But basically, I just want to tell you guys the story. Um, so I was born in Chicago. I currently live in California, but my beginnings all start in the Midwest with some Southern people who adopted me. And so as I tell you my story, as it unfolds, it will be very interesting because not only did skeletons fall out of the closet, but got quite convoluted along the way. And I don't feel particularly special. I think other people have similar convolutions, um, especially in the era that I was born in. But I think it's interesting enough to tell you. So, I, like many people, fell in love with Oprah and Iyanla Vanzant. She once said on TV that your life tells your story. So I'm kind of thinking that each time you go through a big major life change, that you create a new story. And so then you get to choose to either keep telling your old story, tell your most recent story, or stop telling stories. But my life is really filled with repeated themes that were filled with fear and rejection, or they were charged up with faith and determination. And, sometimes I would just roll back down the hill into fear and rejection and land into some deep, dark abyss of depression. And in that depression, somewhere inside, I still knew that there was a miracle waiting for me to call on it. And quite often, some of my co-characters in this story seem to repeat themselves, only in different bodies and with new names. But this story would always be brightly shining on the marquee, starring me. It was my story over and over again. So, I'm going to go back and tell you the first miracle that I can remember. Okay. I was about 5 years old, and I was real sick. I had a high fever. And when I say high for a 5-year-old, it was like 105 degrees. And believe it or not, back then they still had doctors that would come to your house, make house calls. And I remember the doctor coming to see me, and the way our apartment was set up in Chicago, we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, and my parents slept in the bedroom, and I had a bed, a single bed in the living room right beside the window. Later, I'll share with you a poem I wrote about sleeping beside the window. But this fever was pretty high, and so my mom called the doctor over, and you know, I think they actually took me to the hospital. Problem is, I was allergic to penicillin. I couldn't take it. And they determined that I had something called scarlatier, something like that. It was like a different form of scarlet fever. And since I couldn't take penicillin, which is the only thing that could cure it, um, they just didn't expect me to live. They sent me home. I was supposed to die. And I do remember being kind of in and out of consciousness and hallucinating, as my mother said. But I don't think I had hallucinations. I believe I had a visitation. A spirit. Yeah, spirit came to me, or a invisible man. However you want to call it, it was a visitation. And I know that the room, it was late in the middle of the night, and the room was really dark, but I saw this glowing kind of luminescent light coming from the door. Because the apartment was small. So I could, even though I was beside the window, I could see the front door. And so my mother had a picture on the door. It's really old pictures from church. It had a picture of, the white Jesus with the golden hair and the long white robe, and it said, "Come unto me, all ye that labor, and I will give you rest." You guys know that picture. All black people have that picture somewhere. So the picture kind of got blurry. And the blur got bigger and bigger and bigger. And before I knew it, there was this person beside me. And he sat down on the bed. I never saw his face. But I remember that I was not afraid. I probably should have been, but I wasn't. And I remember feeling alone with just me and him and nobody else in the whole world. And I was hot. Man, I was hot. And I remember feeling his hand kind of stroking my forehead. And then he started to tell me stories. And I'm like a little kid. I'm listening to the stories. Swear to God, I can't tell you now what the stories were, but they kind of had me giggling a little bit. And the thing that I remember the most is he said, "Where do you think you're going? Why are you trying to leave?" And I said, "'Cause I don't like it here." And he said, "Well, I had to forget about all that because I had things to do." And somewhere in the middle of the night, I could actually feel the heat leaving my body. And by morning, I kind of woke up, he was gone, and I was hungry. And I jumped out of the bed and ran into my parents' room, and I said, "Daddy, wake up. I'm hungry." And so, I was trying to tell them what happened and who the guy was. And for some reason back then, my mother just didn't believe me. She would just push me off. At least I thought she didn't believe me. I found out later that she really did, but it was just her way. My dad was a little different. He would say, "I'm going to let you tell me all about it." But they were surprised that the fever was gone. And um, I was well. I was fine. And honestly, I told my dad about, the guy that was in the room with me. My mom was kind of standing back listening, and she didn't say anything. And my father was like the most interested. And so I felt from then I would always be able to confide in my dad and not my mom. Um, and later, I'm going to say maybe a week or two after that, the the spirit came back. Only this time I wasn't sick and I wasn't hallucinating. And I couldn't just be calm and relax and remember the guy. I was scared this time. And I was like, "Oh," calling my dad. I was like, "The man is back. The man is back." And I went running, and I never got to talk to this spirit again. Maybe I scared him to death. I don't know. But it really made me believe at that point that there was more to our realm, our universe, than just those of us in the flesh. I understood that. And my mother understood that because I remember later she used to ask me, did could I ask my friends, you know, my spirit friends, if they had lottery numbers. Only back then they didn't call it lottery, they called it the policy. So it was like a secret game, underground lottery that only the people in the neighborhood played. And you know, I actually told her some numbers and she won some money. So then I knew she really knew that it was something else going on. But the point of this story is that the miracle happened. I didn't die. It wasn't my time. And it was the beginning of my experience with the spirit realm and with miracles. So I'm going to sign off here and I will come back again very soon, I promise, with the next part of this story. So tune in and do me a favor, post a few comments so that I know somebody's out there paying attention or has some interest. I also have I've created a whole new web page. So even though I'm on Blogger, I'm also at my own website, RitaLJarvis.com. And I have two categories, and they're going to be the categories that is just this book called Addicted to Miracles. And then I have a separate category that will be any other things that I kind of want to just bring to your attention or talk about or vent about, you know, whatever. So, see you soon. Bye.